Welcome back to another episode of Not Even D2, the podcast covering the narratives that matter, anything involved with college sports and beyond. On today's episode, we have Coach Michael Crotty. Crotty just succeeds in every position or role he's given and involved with sports. You know, Coach Crotty was started as a freshman at Williams, and in the last 2 years of his career, won a national championship and national championship runner-up. He was an All-American in those 2 years. Great college career, and then after college, he played professionally overseas and played for the Harlem Globetrotter. Something we talk about, cool little experience with Coach Crotty. And then he was given the opportunity to coach for the Boston Celtics. He's the director of player development for the Celtics when they won their 17th championship. Got to coach guys like Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, all Hall of Famers, great careers they had. He gives us a lot of great stories behind that. And now he's directing one of the best basketball programs in the whole country. And I have a lot of thoughts regarding the Middlesex Magic. He's just a great guy, a lot to talk about. And before we get too much more into this episode, I just want to shout out Coach Crotty and yourself for sticking with me. I was on, let's say, an extended vacation, and the Wi-Fi was just not it, bro. I would lag out. I would come back in, thought it would be fine, and then my screen would be blurred on your guys' end, or you guys couldn't hear me. And through it all, you guys held a great conversation with or without me, and it was just a really good, intimate conversation that the three of us had together. But that's just one little small thing. I think the people on YouTube will start to see that my screen is a little messed up at times, but we got through it, and it was a great episode. So, what you got to say about Coach Crotty?
Yeah, I mean, this episode was definitely like probably the most memorable ones I think that we've ever done, just because yeah, it was like an intimate conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because one, we talked about just his college basketball career, and he obviously had a lot to say, just going down memory lane, talking about the love that he had for his coaches or teammates. Then we talked about his professional career and how much he enjoyed that. Then talking about how the relationships that he built with the Celtics and all of those experiences and stories that he told. But then we talked about his father, Mike Crotty Sr., who, he passed away in 2010, and you could just tell the impact that that man had on Coach Crotty. You know what I'm saying? And like the overall impact that he had on the Middlesex Magic program today. Like we mentioned this, or we mentioned this in the episode, like they still have the MC on the logo of their jerseys. So it's like every time they step on the court, right, outside of the logo and the Under Armour logo too, like they have the MC representing his father. And I just love that. You know what I'm saying? Like we filmed this episode on my own dad's birthday too. So like to hear him talk about, how much love that he had for his dad, and also he's now a father too, the love that he has for his kids. I think it was a great moment, bro, and something that I'll never forget. But talking a little bit more about like the Middlesex Magic program, like, growing up as a kid in like, New England and New Hampshire, like you always hear about Middlesex Magic, like they're really active on Instagram. So like, you see kids getting offers, or, a lot of my boys that, I grew up with, for example, my boy Matt Price, like he played Middlesex Magic late, and like Matt, like he didn't have any like interest really. He had only like D3s looking at him. And there's nothing wrong with Division 3, but Matt wanted to play like at the scholarship level, and he was 100% a scholarship player. So Crotty took him, and he started playing for Middlesex. And the summer of COVID, when everything was like not really going well in the world, Matt got an offer. And from then on, him and Crotty became like really close friends. And he was the one that actually connected me with Coach Crotty. So that's like one example of like the man who Crotty is, just like how he'll always like love his players, hold them accountable on the court, but he's just like you could tell the connection that he has. And he has like probably, like I said in the episode, probably the best I said not AAU, but like AAU programs in the country. If you think about just depth overall, what they've done in terms of UAA, Hoop Group Showcase League, right? Anything you could think of. It's just, he's running a machine of a program, as my boy B Max says. So it was definitely a great interview, bro, and I'm excited for everyone to listen.
No, facts. Happy belated to your pops too, bro. Um, but yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the Middlesex Magic program, and it started off, as just like this local community kind of team, and year by year, it's continuing to grow. Coach Crotty, and I were in a group chat message, like a few days ago, and he actually told us that they got like 10 out of 11 players signing Division One. So it started as just this program, a bunch of friends led by his father, and now it's a dominant program that are continuing to put kids in college, and they're getting scholarships, going to high major schools. So, like you said, it's just a machine of a program right now. And another thing that separates the Middlesex Magic from other programs, like we keep saying, it's not an AAU program; it's a basketball program. And I want to make sure that viewers who aren't that up to date with like AAU culture, this is the opposite. Or if you know about AAU culture, this is the opposite. It's not just a basketball, like we're going to show up on Tuesday, practice, and then go to our tournament Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and then never talk to each other. Like this is a family that he's created and his father has created. And it's putting people in the right position. They're led by, because Coach Crotty knows the game as well. They're led by a great coach. He's putting them in the best positions to be seen by these college coaches, teaching them how to be a basketball player, but how to be better men. And he's going to keep growing the female program, but how to be better men. So, I mean, the Middlesex Magic, they're still not getting the respect they deserve. I know you and I were talking with people a few weekends ago, and we were trying to talk like Middlesex Magic is one of the most dominant programs, and we basically got laughed at. And it's like, yo, like you guys you guys aren't tuned into what they're actually doing or how these kids are being set up for the future. So, I mean, we are on board with Middlesex being a dominant program, but it's time for the rest of the country to get on board.
No, you're 100% right. I didn't mean to cut you off, bro. I was just laughing because it's like it's true because it's like we literally said it. I'm not gonna say who we were talking to because we were talking about like the most dominant AAU programs in New England, and I was like, because I obviously like like people know about expressions or BABC, right? And those are definitely dominant programs. Like they've had like NBA guys, but I'm just saying like right now, if you look at who like what they've done at least in the last like 10 years, that like bro, they have a couple NBA guys. They got some guys in the G League. They got a lot of guys playing high major basketball. They got guys playing D2. They got guys playing D3. They got guys like working. I know one guy, Anthony Berry. He's working at he's working at as a strength coach for I think the Detroit Pistons right now. I'm
That's
not mistaken. So it's like they got guys like all across the country, bro, playing basketball, but they also have like a roster full of like really good coaches, bro. Like, for example, I don't know this guy personally, but Coach P, I don't know how to say his last name, but like I've seen his teams play. He was an 1,000 point scorer at Curry College, and like, bro, as a coach, like you see the passion that this guy has, man, on the court. Or they have like Coach Tell White, who's I'm pretty sure he's a coach of Emmanuel right now, so, and he's turned around their program. But it's like I met him before at different camps and stuff like that, and he's a really good guy. So when you think outside of like the players too, like even the roster of coaches, bro, that they have is like I think second to none. Like they just got guys who care about the game, bro, and it's like it's dope to see, especially at the AU level, like you're talking about, because like you don't see that a lot in today's day and age. Like a lot of people are just like they pay to play and then they put on their jersey and then they just show up to the tournaments and then, like you said, they out of there. So
yeah. Talking a little bit more about their coaching staff, like Crotty actually talked about this, saying that's part of the reason that they've been able to grow to such a dominant program is because these coaches, they're great basketball minds, but also they're dedicated to their craft. They're putting a lot of time in. I'm not gonna check their pockets, but probably not for a ton of money and just because they love it and they want to help kids out. So I got a lot of respect for the Middlesex Magic. And I mean, this was a long episode, so I don't want to keep the intro too long. We talked about a ton with Coach Crotty, what made his Williams team so successful, how it was for him being a All-American, Bob Cousy Award winner, what the Harlem Globetrotters experience was like, and how he got the position to be with the Boston Celtics. Like I said, he gave us a lot of great stories during his time there. And we talk about Middlesex Magic a lot. His father, the impact he had on the program, but also what's next for Middlesex Magic, because like I said, they're continuing to grow. So we're definitely big fans of Coach Crotty, and enough from hearing from you and I. Let's hear from Coach Crotty.
Real quick thing, KJ, before we cut this. If this is outside of Middlesex Magic, but we got to give a big shout out to Davidson Hubbard. He just committed to Baylor, and shout out Coach Kimbrough too. Big ups to him. You know what I'm saying? That's a high major player that he just had in his program, and I'm excited to see how they do now that he's now leaving the program and how they adjust Hampton-Sydney. But I'm also excited for Davidson too to like really get off at the next level and like put on for D3. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to him. But yeah, back to the episode.
But yeah, that's love. Definitely gonna be looking to see what Davidson does. Your theory is being tested again, so we got 14 opportunities to see what this theory looks like. We should do an episode with like all of them or some crazy idea like that.
We should for sure.
All right, let's do it. But let's hear from Coach Crotty. All right, we're here with Coach Crotty. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
Feeling great. We're excited to have you. We know that AAU season can be pretty hectic, so appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to do this.
My pleasure.
So obviously, we're going to talk about this a lot, but you spent some time with the Celtics, and the Celtics just won another championship this past year. So I'm just wondering, like, are you a fan of the Celtics, and were you following their run, and what you think about the future of the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, big fan. Still have a lot of connections from my time there. A lot of folks on the kind of the operation on the business side. Sean Sullivan, Rich Gotham are good friends of mine that really help run the organization. Their kids, after I was with the Celtics, wound up playing for the Magic. So I got to meet them and become friends with them during our Celtics days, and then had the opportunity to coach their kids and remain close. Brad Stevens' son played for the Magic, and he's at Notre Dame now as a freshman, and we're actually neighbors, not too far away. We live in the same town. And even though Danny Ainge isn't here anymore, he still had a big impact on that team. And I've stayed close with Danny. I grew up a Celtics fan, my dad, my grandfather, everything. So pumped to see them win it. Got to some playoff games. Didn't get to the parade. I was out of town. I have a 7 and a 4-year-old. I have 2 sons, and my little guy loves it. The oldest guy's not as into it yet. So I hope and believe they can win a lot more. And I think my little one, I don't think he's going to want to miss another parade because he can list them now. He had that for Jason Tatum, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday. He knows it. So I'll always be rooting for the Celtics. Sometimes it gets a little difficult because it seems like every NBA guy that comes out of our program is going to an Eastern Conference opponent. Duncan Robinson with the Heat, Pat Connaughton with the Bucks, now Tyler Kolek with the Knicks. I'm like, geez, they couldn't go to like the Western Conference and make it a little easier. But I've been a Celtic fan since I was since as long as I can remember. So when they're hanging banners, I'm pumped up for the organization, even if I didn't have ties to it. But I'm really happy to see a lot of my friends get another, in many cases, get another ring. So
yeah. One thing I'm curious about, have you ever like sat in on any of their practices or anything like that and seen how they kind of run things there?
Yeah, I went to a practice when Brad was the coach. So I guess that was a handful of years ago. I haven't been to one of Joe's, but I got over there recently to watch Cormac Ryan work out. He's another Magic guy who's on the Oklahoma City Thunder summer league team and fighting to earn a contract in the league. So I knew he was having a draft workout with the Celtics, and I reached out to Brad and went over and watched that. But I haven't been on one of Missoula's practices recently. This day and age, you can see so much online, though. You can see that, Missoula, he's just got a great temperament, and I'm guessing that's why Brad knew he could do the job, even though he was somebody without a ton of experience and was still kind of a younger guy. So I would love to get to one and probably would try to take advantage of that in the future. But you really want to go to like training camp or something early, having spent time in the NBA, practices during the year, they're not very involved. There's not a ton of physicality. There's not a ton of live stuff. It's an 82 game journey. So if you get training camp, there's some stuff there, right? There's, if you got 20 guys, there's a bunch of them fighting for a spot. And I think that's a little more competitive. And then during the year, you got to kind of temper it so that you take care of everybody's body. But yeah, spend a good amount of time over there. And they got that beautiful new facility. It's better than where we were in Waltham back in 2008. Although I love that place. It was getting a little aged. So that Auerbach Center is beautiful.
No, I drive by it sometimes. It's really nice. It's really nice. It's always a sight to see. And also when you see videos online, the weight room looks cool too. I like what they got going on over there.
It is. I mean, I think when you're there, you're right overlooking the Mass Pike. It's pretty cool. It's a beautiful setup.
Yeah. So just something I'm a little curious about too. So when we were doing research for this episode, looking at the Middlesex Magic YouTube channel, I seen during 2020, you have a bunch of drills on there, like flat ball screen drills or the +7, -7. I don't know if I'm saying that one right.
Sure.
And then I know that, my close friend is Brendan McNamara, and he said you used to train him when he was very young. So I'm just kind of curious, like, are you still getting in the gym? Are you still hitting up pickup runs? Like, what is your own basketball life look like now?
That's a good question. B-Max, great kid. Love him. He's working our camps this summer. I wish I was playing a little bit more. I still play. There's a great morning run that I've been a part of for like 20 years that I need to be getting my behind out of bed a little bit earlier on Wednesdays and Fridays, I should say. So I play there. It's a really good run, ex-college guys. I'll run with my teams at practice every now and then still. I don't like to do it early in the year when we're doing more teaching. It's a little easier sometimes to play with the juniors right away. They're just polished. Sometimes the sophomores are figuring it out. It's easier to guard my sophomores, though, than it is to guard my juniors as they get defense is getting a little hard here as I get into my my early to mid 40s. I just turned 43, but I still play. Still got a little gas left in the tank. Still, my office that I'm in is above our 3-court facility, so I can still get down there and put some shots up. Always working on my ball handling, and maybe not like when I was 23, but still a little gas left in the tank, and there's still nothing like playing. So I love to play. I'll still play with our guys here and there, and I'm holding my own. Sometimes better than that. Sometimes, as I said, the defensive side's a little harder. Offense, I can still play with those guys a little bit. So I'll do that as long as I can. Hopefully I can do it till I'm 50. We'll see.
So this is actually a perfect transition, Coach. Watching your film online, I see that at Williams, you were either coming off a lot of ball screens and had different footwork on the 3-point line, or you were coming, they were setting down screens for you and you were coming off shooting it, or maybe getting into the mid-range and making plays off that, either passing or getting to the rim, shooting pull-up middies. One, I kind of feel like either Williams' offense or even your play style was a kind of ahead of the curve with the 3-point shooting and whatnot. And also something I'm also curious about, who are some like guards of your era that you wanted to model your game after?
Good question. My favorite all-time player was John Stockton. He was a guy I watched a lot. Wanted to be a great pick and roll player. I think I had some quickness. I was a really good ball handler, but I wasn't just going to break everybody down. So understanding angles, really working on ball screens, ball handling. And my dad would always tell me, if you're an excellent shooter, you're quicker because they got to close out. They have to come at you. And then if you can anticipate that, now you're quicker. John Stockton was definitely my idol, guy I looked up to. Kevin Johnson, that might be you guys might have to look him up. Played for the Phoenix Suns. He was awesome. Tim Hardaway was back. I love those smaller guards that were getting it done in the late 80s and early 90s. Mark Price, Cleveland Cavalier guy. What a stud he was. And then there was a guy named John Crotty, who I think there's some distant relation with, but he had like a 12, 13-year career in the league. He was a backup, but he was tough, and he set a lot of records at Virginia in college. So those are guys I model my game after. In terms of our play style, Harry Sheehy was a legendary player and coach at Williams. When Dave Paulson got the job, Harry recruited our class. Dave was a motion offense guy and more flow, less sets. So we were in a lot of 3 out, 2 in, and then it morphed into some 4 out, which is where Dave was ahead of the curve and stepping out and shooting threes and spacing the floor. Those last 2 years, I mean, we had a great 4-year run. We were 104 wins and 16 losses. But those last 2 years, we were 61-3, and we had lethal shooting. We had an All-American big guy with Ben Coffin, and I was an All-American point guard. And I'd throw it one way, I'd come out the other off Benny on a pin down, and then if we had action there, great. If not, Benny would come and set a ball screen, and we would space 3 who could shoot threes. So you're talking about an empty side ball screen with Ben and I. And 3 excellent shooters. I mean, guys that all shot over 42%. And the year before, we had Drew DeMuth, who was an ox of a 5-man, and we put him down in the dunker, and we'd space 2 shooters. So with Tucker Kane the following year, we kind of spaced 3. We had Chuck Abba, another classmate of mine, who shot over 45% from 3. We had Tim Folan. We had Jarris Cole, more of a slasher, great defender. But when we could space Chuck, Mike Graham, Tucker Kane, Tim Folan, and then or put Drew in the dunker, but we ran about 1 billion ball screens with Ben Coffin and myself, and that was our bread and butter. And Ben played for the Middlesex Magic for my dad. We played together in high school on the AAU team, and we just had you had a 6'8" Division III All-American. I was a pretty good player. That ball screen was really difficult, and when they helped, I could get in there and put it on the numbers. That's why I got all those assists. I had great shooters, man. Just put it on the numbers. Those guys ripped it, and we had a really good rhythm playing some motion offense.
You spoke a little bit about breaking records, and you mentioned something. Your class of 2004 is the winningest class at Williams with, like you said, 104 wins and 16 losses, which is crazy. Some of your other accolades, you were selected as the Bob Cousy Award winner in 2004 for the best point guard in New England across Division I, Division II, and Division III. You own the Williams record for most minutes played in a career and minutes played in a season, record for career assists. So you have a lasting legacy at Williams, which is one of the best schools, either athletically or academically, in the country. So how does it feel to have left a lasting legacy like that at a school like that?
I got goosebumps hearing you say that, man. It means a lot to me. I coach a lot of players now, a lot of Division I players, Division II, Division III. We have a lot of them that come through our program. Williams means everything to me. Best decision I ever made in my life. I met my best friends and really family to me. When I go back, I still get that same feeling every time I cross from North Adams or whichever town we're coming through. Depends which road you take. But it means a lot to me, and it matters. Get those guys right there. That's a special picture to me that hangs in our office from when we won it in 2003. To leave a legacy at a place, that is everything I wanted to do. When I went on my visit, I saw all the banners. They had a great tradition. Saw the 1997 and 98 Final Four banners. And I knew those were Mike Nigello's teams and Matt Hunt and 96 Jeff Chapin. So we were history buffs about the program and knew they had really good success in the 90s, knew they had the back-to-back Final Fours where they finished third. There was still a consolation game if you lost. Talk about a character game, and they won that game the next day. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to be a part of putting some banners up there. That was really all it was. I just really, really wanted to be a part of putting banners on the wall, wanted to be a part of great teams, and wanted to be a part of that brotherhood that exists within the alumni network. And I think I had a good balance of like working my tail off and being humble, but also with being really, really ambitious. Like I didn't want to come off the bench ever. And I didn't intend to. And there was a couple of junior point guards when I got there, and I never came off the bench. I worked hard, and those guys were good guys. One of them stopped me, quit kind of in the fall, and another guy hung around for a year, but I was able to earn that starting job, and that meant a lot to me right away. Because even if you're not a captain or you haven't earned being a leader on a team, if you're a freshman and you're a starting point guard, you got to be a leader. And So that was a great year too, to lead with other seniors and strike that balance. You know, you can't always tell them everything you want to tell them in the moment, right? They're the seniors.
Yeah.
But toward the end of the year, I did. And but I had earned, as Paulson used to say, you got to earn your platform to lead. You got to do it every day. And so to have that legacy, to your question, it means everything to me. I love that school. I'm very proud I got to attend school there and be a student there. I learned so much. I listed a bunch of the guys: Demuth, Folan, John Fitzgerald, Sumat Bhatt, the class above us. Those guys are just big brothers to me. I love them. At all their weddings, you know, the class below us: Tucker Kane, Jarris Cole, Mike Graham, Charlie Bassnagel, also like brothers. And then my class, our class: Blake Morgan, Ben Coffin, and Chuck Abb. I mean, those guys are my brothers. And, I was best man in Ben and Chuck's wedding, and the three of us still live in the same area, and we get our kids together a lot. And we played a lot of men's league for a while. We still play a little bit here and there, but those guys that's the legacy that counts. And I'm backwards here, but when I lean that way and I point over there, whatever it is, that picture, that one, I have 3 pictures hanging up there. I have our Under Armour championship last year. I have the Williams one. I have our Celtics one. And guys are coming all the time and say, which one means the most? And I'm like, the one in the middle, the one I played in. That one means the most. They all mean, it's very close, but nothing will take away from that we got a family. We still text all the time. And that's the legacy, is being part of that team. That's really what it is.
I want to go back to talking about Williams College. Obviously, it's a prestigious school academically, but also athletically on the basketball side. I was reading that they're ranked 8th in total wins and winning percentage. And talking to different Williams members on the podcast, or just like one-on-one conversations, it seems like there's something different about Williams that allows players or just people to be successful post-college. And I was wondering if you could talk about what you think separates the Williams program from other schools or basketball programs.
I have a lot of love for a lot of D3 programs now, because they recruit my guys. So I'm not just the Williams guy as the Middlesex Magic coach, as the alumni. What separates it? I mean, I think it's the people. I spoke a little bit earlier about Nigello and Chapin and Hunt, and then guys I play with who are seniors: Andrew Connolly, Manny Benjamin, Joe Weiss, JL Common, Dan Dickens, Brian Doherty. Those are seniors we had. I think the biggest thing is you have a lot of really ambitious, really hardworking, really humble guys. And when you can blend those 3 characteristics, and you got to toe the line every now and then. Some people might have said, oh, when you played, you didn't seem too humble. Well, when I'm on the court, I'm trying to project confidence, and confidence is built in hours in the gym. I put those hours in. My teammates put those hours in. So I was definitely a confident leader for my team, which sometimes did not translate to the opposing team's fans enjoying number 4, but I didn't care. And I met a lot of guys I played against after that said, oh man, I hated playing against you. And I was like, thank you. I think that's what I wanted you to. I didn't want you to like me while we were playing. That probably meant you were kicking my butt. And but when you get that blend of remarkable diligence and hard work, with humility and humble, but with being ambitious and not being too small-minded about your goals. We had lofty goals, and the guys before us had lofty goals. So we came into this program that Harry Sheehy built, and that's Harry: confident, ambitious, extremely hardworking. That rubs off. You walk into a gym, it's got a ton of banners in it. And those alumni that came back were great. Mike Nigello was awesome. He did come back and scrimmage us. They kicked our butts freshman year. They kicked our butts sophomore year. You just couldn't stop him. I mean, he was like a 28-year-old Division III Michael Jordan. He's like 6'6", 6'5", whatever. Post you, go by you. And then junior year, they came back and we put it on them. I mean, and they're not a team. They're just coming to play on a day, and we put it on them. And they were like, I think some things had changed, and we were ready to take it. But I think in terms of the success after, the basketball program is a massive part of my life and all the guys that go through it. But the school the professors, the environment you're in is fully charged with high achieving people. Everywhere you go, every class, any art, any sport, no matter what it is, there are really hardworking, really high achieving people. So to be in an environment where that's the norm, you got to lift yourself up all the time if you want to compete and if you want to be a part of it. I loved that feeling, and I loved going into classes with people that were probably better students than me by and large, often, right? And competing, right? And doing the reading and getting involved in the conversation. I enjoyed that. Early on in my career, it felt like playing pickup ball with like the Celtics. It's like I got to just make some swing passes and blend in, and then you get better. And by the time you're a junior or senior, you feel like you can lead some of those conversations. So that's what we had. We had guys that were on our team that wanted to compete in the classroom and compete on the court, and that's what it's about. And then when you leave, you get out into a world that doesn't seem as challenging, quite frankly, as Williams was. And I think if you can maintain those qualities I talked about in that world, that's why these guys have had success. They maintain the ambition, they maintain the humility, and they maintain the diligence. And I think that's what makes a Williams student athlete and a Williams grad to me.
I think you just said that perfectly. I respect everything you just said. And you can definitely see, like, just the cliche saying is surround yourself with people who are going to improve you. And I feel like just being, like you said, being in that environment, even just regular students, not student athletes that are going as hard as they can in the classroom, is going to set them apart, but also the other people around them. So I appreciate that.
For sure.
But moving on a little bit. So after your playing career at Williams, you actually continued to play basketball. You had a nice professional career. You spent some time playing overseas. Then you played for the U.S. Pro-Am team, traveled to Philippines, playing the best teams in Philippines. Then you spent some time with the Globetrotters and finished your playing career overseas in Germany. But I want to talk about this Harlem Globetrotters experience. I was reading that the Globetrotters, you were touring Europe, and you visited some places like Germany, Spain, Italy, and you were playing in big arenas or U.S. military bases. So I was just wondering if you could walk me through a day in the life of a Harlem Globetrotter back then.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. So our senior year, the Globetrotters brought a team to Williams and played us on homecoming weekend for football. They used to put a real team together, not their show team, and go play the national champs. They played Michigan State and Syracuse, whoever, and they played the D2 champs. So we got them to come. They brought a team full of like ex-pros, Cedric Ceballos, Ron Rose, and Eugene Ederson. And then Derek Harper was the point guard. 4 months later, he started in the Western Conference Finals for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was backing up Sam Cassell. Cassell got hurt, and KG and Derek Martin and company lost to the Lakers. Anyway, so they came and they beat us, as you might expect. They were still pretty freaking good. But I played really well, and I had like 21 points and 7 or 8 assists. And the coach of that team told the guy that would put together the team that would play against the Globetrotters, most people would think of them the Washington Generals, but they wear different uniforms. We were the New York Nationals when I played. Sometimes they had the Boston Shamrocks. I kind of wish we wore that uniform, being that I was from the area, but we were the New York Nationals. So I played against the Globetrotters. It was great, but coming from being so competitive with Williams, I didn't really like the theatric part of it, where you had to, as a defender, be a part of the show. The rule was like, hey, on offense, go play, go score. And sometimes they had some real hoopers out there, and sometimes they had the guys out that could hit a half-court hook shot or did all the tricks that they did. I would like to say I loved every minute of it, but as a 22-year-old who wanted to play professionally for real, I enjoyed it, and I had some moments where I was like, this is entertainment. And my dad was great. He was like, you just got to soak it up and enjoy it, man. And I remember having a really big game in Germany, and unbeknownst to me, there was a scout there to watch, and I had like 8 threes in the first half. Now, again, sometimes they're not really guarding you, but you got to make 8 threes. And their coach came in at halftime, and we'd be like interacting with the guys at halftime. You play dominoes. We'd shoot the breeze with them. We were hanging out. And in Europe, we all stayed at the same hotels. I never did a domestic tour where you'd play all around the United States. apparently the Globetrotter stayed at this hotel and we stayed at this hotel. I never did one in the States. I did the European tour. So we hung out with them. They were great guys. And the coach came in and started yelling at me. It's not about you. It's about the Globetrotters. And I said, you don't pay me. The very little that I was getting paid, I said, put someone out there that can stop me. And maybe I shouldn't have said that, but so they put Herb Flight Time Lang. You can look up Herbert Flight Time Lang. He was a great guy. And they put him out with the show team. He said, Mikey, you're not supposed to get any more tonight, man. They told me no more for you. I said, do your best, Herb. And I hit 2 more right away to get to 10. And then Herb was a really good defender. He was like 6'3" with a 40-inch vertical, and I didn't hit any more threes after that in Frankfurt. I think we were in, but there was a scout there to watch, and they wound up getting in touch with my dad, and so I got a contract to go play in Munster, which is it was like a second division team in Germany up near Cologne in the northwest portion of the country, and that's where I spent the next 6 months. So I had a blast. It was really cool. Sometimes you wish you could go back to things when you're older and do it again and just enjoy it a lot more. But I was so competitive. I didn't like the fact that we had to lose every game. And but what an experience. I mean, you get to look around at people loving it, and they play Sweet Georgia Brown, which is the song. And, I get to tell my kids about it. Well, I'll take my kids when they're a little older and say, hey, I used to be that guy over there. I used to make some shots, and then they put the ball around my back and they scored a layup. So it was a neat experience. It was, looking back, it was really cool.
You got to respect the competitive edge that you bring, though. I definitely respect a lot about that. But I want to move on to a different topic. You were involved with the Boston Celtics, as I mentioned before. And in 2008, you were the director of player development. And 2008 is a special year for the Boston Celtics. Their 17th championship, a great team, one of the most memorable teams in Celtics history. But we have a lot to talk about with the Celtics. So I just want to start with, can you describe a little about your role with the Celtics during this time period?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I sat in the second row. There's a lot of people in that second row now, you see.
Yeah.
I had to wear a suit, not a nice zip up. They get casual attire now since COVID. I got the opportunity to intern after I came back from playing in Germany, help them get ready for the draft. Like converting VHS to DVD, showing my age a little bit there. Okay. And in that draft, we took Gerald Green and Ryan Gomes, and Danny Ainge, like me, I stuck around. You'd rebound, Pierce would come through, some of the other guys. It was cool experience for a kid from the area. And then the director of player development role was open. It needed to be full-time. Danny offered me the job. So there was some off the court information I would bring to the guys. You'd have league meetings, and whether it was financial literacy or the effects of alcohol on athletic performance or whatever the case may be. But Danny just said, go with Doc, do whatever Doc wants. You got to go to these meetings, bring the information back to me. We'll decide what we're going to do. So for all intents and purposes, I was just like a young assistant coach, a lot of rebounding, some scouting reports, charting things during the games, and doing a lot of learning, a lot of chess passes, right? I could put it on the numbers. I wasn't necessarily instructing these guys on their, hey, maybe you got to move your foot. Like, they're NBA players, and I was learning from the coaching staff we had. Kevin Eastman was another great guy on that staff to learn from. Dave Wohl, Armin Hill. Like, there were a bunch of really gentlemen, great guys that been in the game a long time. And Doc was wonderful. Doc's an amazing guy, a guy that I really, really liked being around. And ironically, now Doc's head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. I got to coach Pat Connaughton from 15 to 18. And so we have that connect now, and hoping to see Doc a little bit out there next year when I visit Patrick in Milwaukee.
So I'm just a little curious about this, Coach. Like, you mentioned your old coach, Dave Paulson. He had a saying, earn your platform. And I'm wondering this, how did you earn your platform at for your player development role with the Celtics? Because like you said, you were a young assistant coach. You were writing. I know you said you weren't instructing them maybe on the game, right? Because they are NBA players, but you were writing scouting reports, and doing all the basketball stuff. So how did you do that with those guys?
Yeah, I think it's some of those characteristics I mentioned earlier when we talked about Williams. Like, you better be humble in that environment, right? Like, there's a lot of accomplished athletes. I think showing up every day, doing your job, not being cocky about it, and building trust. And I think like anything, and as I try to do now when I get to know my players. But when you get to know those guys, if you get to know them off the court and you show up every day and you develop a rapport, then they trust you and they understand that, hey, you probably have this job for a reason too. Like Danny Ainge drafted you because you're good. He also offered me a job because he saw some qualities in me that he thought could be helpful to our organization. So I think showing up every day, being the same guy every day, stacking those days one after the next, then you earn your trust, And a story I told on one other podcast many years ago, but a time, those first 2 years, we weren't very good. We were very young and we lost a lot of games. And those guys were easier to kind of get to know. I was the same age or a little bit older. The next year, when we got Kevin and Ray and Posey and Eddie House, and PJ Brown, we were 66-16. We won it. Now we go to Rome and London for a training camp, which was amazing. Traveling the world a little bit, and the team really bonded. And there was one great night, myself and one of the strength coaches went out to dinner with the guys, kind of younger coaches. It's a night off, big meal, drinking some wine. And it was just cool to be a part of with those guys. And, nights like that, you'll never forget. Then we had an exhibition game in Worcester. We used to play one in the other New England cities, Providence, Hartford, wherever. So in Worcester, it's really warm, even though it's October. Guys are sliding all over the court. Lawrence Franklin, the Nets, and Doc said, hey, let's shut it down after halftime. They didn't finish it. So everybody's they're just signing autographs, trying to be nice to the fans. And so I go into the shower. It's like a bathroom shower. The facilities were not like the NBA facilities at the DCU Center. And I don't think anyone's in there. I'm just splashing some water on my face. I'm sweating through my suit. It was really warm. And I realized the big ticket, which is what I call him, ticket, Garnett's kind of coming out of the shower and got a towel around his waist. He's drying. I'm like, at that point, I'd still been around the guy for a month, but he still kind of had an aura. The word awesome is overused in our language. He's awesome. He kind of keeps you in awe when you're near him. And so I'm like, I want to get out of here. He's going to get dried. And he's like, hey, Mike. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, how old are you? And I'm like, I talked to him a little bit. And I'm like, I just turned 26. He's like, okay. He's like, I see you every day, showing up, doing your job. He's like, there's a lot of people around here that like to run their mouth just to hear themselves speak, and you're quiet and you're doing your thing. He's like, I think you're going to be a great coach someday. And I was like, wow, Kevin Garnett, and I said, well, hey, Ticket, I appreciate that. Thank you. And he said, ain't no effing compliment. It is what it is. And he said it really quick. And I said, all right, well, coming from you to me, that's a compliment. So I appreciate it. He said, that's what's up. And, I was getting ready to leave. And I said, all right, well, now he likes me a little. I'm going to show him my personality. I said, well, hey, Ticket. I said, I've been watching you the last month a lot, the way you were watching me. And, he had said, I've been watching you when you didn't even know I was watching you. I said, I've been watching you when you didn't know I was watching you. I said, I think if you keep it up, you're going to be a hell of a player someday. And he goes, oh, you're funny too. He's drying. I was like, you got jokes. And so we kind of laughed. And the next day he came in, and creatures of habit, he's dapping all the coaches up. And he called every coach by name. He's like, what up, Mike? He's like, oh, no. He's like, you got to see it to believe it. What up, coach? And when he dapped me up, he called me coach. And then the whole year he called me coach. And that's a little thing that he probably wouldn't remember. But as a 26-year-old aspiring coach, Kevin Garnett's calling every coach on the staff by name and calling me coach. I didn't hate that. He was good to me. Paul, they were all really good. And I think I appreciated the fact that I had spent 5 weeks around Kevin Garnett, just doing my job, keeping quiet, throwing passes, trying to soak it up, do a scout here, whatever we got. And the fact that he saw a little something there for a guy like him, that meant a lot then at that time. So, it was a great experience. And obviously getting a championship ring with the hometown team I grew up rooting for, with my name on it. Geez, that's it. That was a great experience. And, that was mission accomplished from my time with the Celtics.
That's a really good story. I love that. And I'm actually a big KG guy myself. I watch a lot of his stuff, in his post basketball playing career with his media career. And I think he's with his show with Paul Pierce, I think he's got a talent for it. He's just, I just like how he's just unapologetically himself at all times. And I
super
think
authentic. Yeah, he is. It's him. And I think in this new day and age of how media is evolving, I think he does a great job. He's got an uncensored platform. So
Yeah.
KG can be KG. He can say whatever he wants, which a regular platform wouldn't work for him. Trust me. He goes, but he's great. He's authentic. He understands the game. He understands people, and he cares. He is a passionate dude. And he was special to be around for a year. Really special.
I'm kind of curious, like listening to his podcast, like he talks about how, when he wasn't subbed in, he'll be running up and down the sidelines during like during practice, or he talks about the G Unit runs with Scalabrini, Paul Pierce, Posey, Big Baby, and how those used to get super physical, and those used to be the best part of the season. And I seen a video online too of you talking to. You had an interview with the Chronicle, and they were talking about how Ray Allen had just hit maybe 6 or 8 threes the game before, and then he went 0 for 13 or something like that the next game. And then we all know about Paul Pierce and how he is. So what was it like for you as a young coach to see like, oh, these top players are working super hard? Like, what was that like for you to see that, and how has that kind of influenced you and your conversations with the top players of Middlesex Magic in the future?
That's a good question. I mean, all three were different. They were a great trio together. I always said like Ray was the standard for work ethic. Paul was so talented and such a gamer, and such an ultra competitor. And then KG's passion and intensity, it can't be talked about enough. Like everyone knows, right? And you see him now on his platform, so you can see it. But like, it's even more than that when it came to the Boston Celtics and winning. So I think you could draw something from each of them, and I probably spoke to Ray the most. He was in there so early. He was very adamant about his profession and getting his work done. Paul was Paul, man. I had 3 years with Paul, so knew him the best, super talented. And then KG, I just told that story and I had a special bond with him in that way. But I didn't, you weren't going out of your way to chit chat the big ticket. When he came into the office, the facility, he was there to do a job, and that was it. He was very serious about it, and I respected that. But yeah, you can draw upon the work ethic, the ability to really ratchet it up during games, the ability to be so passionate and determined. There's great qualities from all of those guys, and I mean, what a special group to be around, and it really was. It was. The further away you get, the more you understand how enjoyable and how lucky you were to sort of be there and be a part of, I keep pointing the wrong one, that one over there, that picture, to be in that picture, that means a lot to me. We'll go to my sons or my family, we'll go out to a dinner, and, sometimes in Boston, they'll have these pictures in restaurants, pizza shops, wherever. And so they know in that one, they can go and say, there's my dad, which is pretty cool. It's a good one to be in. Not
a lot of people get that opportunity. Or
That's true, for sure.
So I don't know how true this is, but I was reading about you, and it said that during your time with the Celtics, you were teaching players how to be like professionals off the court as well, teaching them about alcohol, things of that nature. And I also read that you spent some time living with Gerald Green, who had a ton of potential. He was drafted out of high school, one of the last players to be drafted out of high school in 2005. And I heard Doc Rivers say in a podcast that T-Mac and Gerald Green, like he saw a lot of T-Mac in Gerald Green. So I was wondering if you could just talk about your relationship with Gerald and what you saw in him from such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, I did spend some time with the players off the court, whether we were doing community events and helping kind of be a liaison with the community relations team and the folks that kind of worked downtown. So you got that downtime in the car with the guys. I always thought that was the most important. When you bring them stuff about financial literacy and the effects of alcohol and athletic performance or whatever, they're going to listen. But, financially, they always had people around them who by and large were very helpful. And they were making a lot of money, but you got to understand how to use it. And, if you get 5 million, you're not getting 5 million that year. You got to learn about taxes and withholdings and all these things. So, they're young people. Gerald's a great guy. And Danny had said to me, hey, when he offered me the job, it's not like they had to pay me a lot of money as a 24-year-old. And until you're invaluable, you got to, people would probably pay them to do that job. So he said, hey, we can pay for your housing. I want you to live with Gerald Green. I think he just wanted like a responsible, I don't want to say role model, but I guess kind of like somebody to look up to a little bit. And, imagine if you're a guy coming from Houston, you just got drafted to the NBA and like, oh, you're going to live with one of our coaches. Like, it could be a little strange, but G Money, my guy, we ran our own tracks at our apartment there when we did it for a year. Awesome guy. His mom was amazing, was really had a handle on the fact that he was this young guy, not like immature, but who at 18 is ready to be an NBA guy? No one, right? Maybe LeBron, maybe Kobe, KG, I guess. Who? So, he won the dunk contest. He could make threes and he could fly. That was it. He could make threes and he could fly. The in-between, ball handling, being a pick and roll player, handling the ball in space, is where he struggled. And that's what college would have been for, right? The development piece. My family got to know him because I lived there. So anyway, when he eventually got traded away and went through his career, what I'll never forget is, he went to Russia. I mean, when I saw that he signed a contract in Russia, I was like, man, I don't think he's going to make it back, and then he made it back and he had a nice tail end of his career and obviously had another stop in Boston. And I was into a game early one time, really early, going to watch some guys work out. And he was coming through the tunnel and I was walking out and he's like, Mike, like I hadn't seen him in 8 years, maybe 9. And unfortunately, my dad had passed in between that time. And we're talking, how are you? I'm doing this. I'm running the program. That's great. I'm so glad you're back in the NBA. And he said, hey, how's your dad doing? And I told him, I said, oh, man, geez. And, man, it hit him. He was like, no. And he gave me a big hug. And he's like, please send my best to your mom and the family. And I was like a different human being. He was a man. I knew him when he was 18. He was still a young guy. And that's my lasting memory of Gerald Green. And I'm just really happy he wound up having the career he did. He earned some good money at the end of his career. And I think he's doing really well in life. And it was, we hung out off the court. It wasn't like there was a ton of things I had to do off the court. I think people looked at it in the media like a babysitting thing, but I didn't do that. Gerald was a great guy. He didn't need any of that. He had a great head on his shoulders. And what an athlete, man. I mean, that guy could jump over cars. He was spectacular. So he was a great guy to be around and a cool little part of my Celtics story,
Yeah, definitely a great story. I respect that. And something I'm kind of thinking about on the fly, we're seeing a lot of like young players, not to just single out Ja Morant, but a situation like Ja Morant going into something that maybe is not the best for his career. So I was wondering, do you think like whose job is that? Is it the veterans? Is it like a player development coach like yourself that are supposed to be taking these younger guys under their wing? Can you just give your insight behind that?
I think great question. I think it's going to differ every situation, every organization, every player, every set of veterans. Chris Herron's story is really well told around here. And when he was in Denver, he had such a great support system there. McDyess, Van Exel, some of the names he mentioned. And then he always said the worst thing that could have happened to him was getting traded to Boston. Home, family, all the stuff he had to deal with. But then they weren't great and they didn't have vets like that, maybe at the time. With Ja Morant, I know nothing about the situation, so I won't speak like I have a solution. Obviously, a remarkable player. Don't know that he's a bad guy. He just seems like some of the decisions haven't been great. You hope that he can have good people around him and make good decisions. But ultimately, like anything, Ja, it's your own responsibility, man. It's not the responsibility of the vets. It's not the responsibility of the GM. It's not the responsibility of the coach. You got to look yourself in the mirror and make good decisions for yourself. You're a grown man. And if he does that, I think he's going to have an amazing NBA career. And if he doesn't, that would be a shame. But I think the structure of the organization will matter. And I'm sure they're doing what they can. But you get to leave the facility, get in your car, and go home every day. And you got to make good decisions no matter whether you're an NBA player or no matter what you do in life. So it's so funny. Today, in the car, driving my 4-year-old to camp, I told you earlier, he's a big basketball fan. And he'll watch YouTube basketball. And he's like, Dad, is Ja Morant an NBA player? And I'm like, we haven't really talked about it. I said, yeah, he is. He's like, yeah, I saw some highlights in him. He's good. I said, he is good. So interesting timing that we're talking about him today. So hopefully my 4-year-old will be watching him for a long time. He's something else. He's really, really good.
That's the words you just spoke were very powerful, definitely. And this is going to be the last question before we head to break. But
Sure.
you mentioned that you were in the second row, you were keeping stats, and I read that you said the stats were relatively inane. For the people that don't know what inane means, it means like silly or stupid. So I'm just wondering if you could talk about like what type of stats you were keeping track of, and when you're developing these players, what kind of analytics and metrics were you focusing on? In today's age, a lot, I bet it has changed a ton. The game has changed a lot, and analytics are taking over compared to eye test. So I was wondering if you could just talk about the stats you were keeping and what you were focusing on during your time with the Celtics.
Yeah, I think there's so many more now, and I say it that way. It was still important, so it's not to impugn what our decision makers were doing or my very important work during the game. But it would be like, hey, when's our first pass on the shot clock at what time? Deflections, how many passes we have, how many ball screens we get, how many times they ran all the sets, and you have the list of their sets. It evolved and it changed over time. But I think what I mean is if we start 50% of the possessions, our first pass at 16 on the shot clock, and 50 of them with the first pass at 21. Well, what do we think we're in a better offense with? Obviously 21, because there's more opportunity to make another pass, get into another action. So when you do that over and over, and it clearly gives you the same result, that's when sometimes I was just like, okay, yeah, 21's better than 16. Like, next, like what, I remember one of our assistant GMs asked me to do a project one time. I thought I was going to get out and like have a night to like maybe see my friends. And he's like, hey, you're still here. It was like a Saturday. And he said, can you look at the last 5 games, LeBron James, top of the key, left wing and right wing pick and rolls, and get some data? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So we do it. And I remember bringing him the printout after like, call it 2 or 3 hours of work. And he looked at it, he goes, and he just looked at the sheet for a second, he goes, pretty good no matter where he is, huh? I go, yep, turns out, yep, it's pretty good. And I was just like, I could have been at dinner. Like, we know LeBron's pretty good to pick and roll every angle. I mean, this wasn't going to differ. It's like, hey, he's terrible on the right wing. Yeah. No, he's really good, So there were occasions where you were doing things and getting results you kind of knew. So that's when I say they were kind of inane sometimes. But hey, it was a great seat. And I'm sure they're doing a lot now. There's so many. There's review. I mean, I love just seeing it. Those guys are everyone's doing an important job. So I don't want to take away from the importance of my role back in the day, or anybody of what they're doing now. But sometimes you still just got to chart things and do things over and over, even if you know what the result will be. And that was kind of what we were doing back there. I think the analytics have shifted a ton in the 15 years, 16 years since I've been around the NBA, and just the way the game is played and what kind of matters. But, no matter how much it changes, it's still kind of the same. It's changed to this, used to be that. Still, you got to do this, or that over and over until you can get W's, and the grind of the season is real. And I just watched the Celtics go through that. We were 66-16 in 08. They were 64-18 this year. I think their playoff record was better for sure. They kind of rolled through it. Our year, we went to 7 the first 2 series, I think, and then 6 with Detroit, 6 with LA. So anyway, always a grind if you're going to be that elite at the NBA level. So it's good to be a part of it.
I'm sorry, Coach. I definitely said this is the last question, but I have one more just quick thought.
Yeah, sure.
There's a ton of viral stories with that Celtics team, wheelchair Paul Pierce game, the Big Four locker room fight, or Ruda mentioned a few practice stories that he's heard of. So I was wondering if you have like a favorite memory or story from that time period.
Well, I told the Garnett story before, and just sort of getting connected with him. That's a personal favorite, I think everyone's got their own perspective and memories. And I remember being overseas for for training camp. I think we were in London at the time, not Rome, where we also went. And I remember having a really intense scrimmage, and I remember James Posey, who was a favorite of mine, and he's kind of a name that doesn't get talked about as much for that team, but that's when they were ahead of the game, playing him at the 4, KG at the 5, and really stretching things because James could guard bigger guys and shoot threes. And him and Garnett got into it, and everyone was afraid of Garnett, like everyone, and James wasn't. And they just went nose to nose, and it was spirited, and they didn't punch or fight, but it was like a lot of words that I won't repeat. And I just remember thinking, we're going to be really good because of that guy. Like, we need that. And Pose was super important to our success. So that's a memory that stands out to me. You know, some of the other stuff that happens in the locker room stuff, some of that stuff I wasn't around. It was 09, 10. I left after 08. But some of the stuff I saw, you know, like, hey, that's just part of being a team, and I was a part of that team. And if it happened in the locker room, we're going to leave it right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that stuff with them and with me. But they were spirited. They were competitors, and that's why they were really good. You know,
Definitely respect that. Keeping it in the locker room. That I give a lot of kudos to you. But
a little bit.
We're gonna take a quick break and come back, talk about you leading one of the most powerhouse AAU programs in the country.
And we're back. So, you know, just reading up online about the Middlesex Magic. First thing that you always notice when you look at the Middlesex Magic, outside of the bright colors with the blue and white, you notice that MC right on the jersey.
Yeah.
And reading online, this represents your father, Mike Crotty Sr., who unfortunately passed away in 2010. I'm sorry for your loss. I know it's been some time now, but losses are losses, and I understand how they can be. So first, just speaking a little bit, you know, reading online, obviously you have the MC on the logo on the jersey. And I know you guys have Coach Bill Boyle, who is always, when I watch Middlesex Magic games, either in person or you see online, he seems like he's always on the sideline, you know, coaching guys up. And I hear online that he was, and hear from friends too, that he was your father's right-hand man. So just talk about the impact that your dad not only had on you and the man you are today, but the influence that he has on your program.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, Bill Boyle was his right-hand man, and Bill played for Al McGuire at Marquette, and Marquette keeps Al on their jersey. So I think that was an idea that Bill had, and so we have that there so that the guys know who built it, who set the foundation, what we're all about, working hard, being tough, competing to win, and having fun. I think those were pillars for my dad. He used to always say, work hard, have fun, get better. But if you didn't play with joy and you didn't have any fun doing it, he always said he didn't really understand what the purpose was. And I think sometimes young men forget that when they get into the grind, and we have fun when we play. So we put it there so that they understand. He built the program. We put it there to pay homage to him, of course. The impact he's had on the program is, it's everything, right? I got to see him build it. I remember being in the living room when he called the AAU in 1993. I remember the call. I think he picked the Magic because the Orlando Magic were a expansion team then. We played in the Middlesex League, being Belmont in Middlesex County. So that's how we got Middlesex Magic. That's how he got it. He liked that Kentucky blue and white, that Duke blue and white. So we've always been royal and white. We added that black trim. So we have kind of that road alt jersey for our UAA guys, which they like. And, the impact he's had lasts to this day. I just, it's in me. Bill, Chris Giordano, the three of us coached the team. My dad coached me, coached Chris, coached with Billy. So we all have pieces of him in what we're doing in terms of coaching and helping these young men. And I know how he'd react to what's been built upon his foundation. I know how happy he would be, how proud he would be. I can see it. And for me personally, to get up every day and have your job be help young men, help young women, use basketball as a vehicle to learn, to know that's what he wanted to do, and that he just started as one or two teams. He had a day job. And to have this be my profession, we have a 3-court facility. Here I am in our office. I know he would be beaming with pride and really excited about what the program has gone on to do and what our players and student athletes have gone on to become. So makes me happy. I people say, oh, he's looking down. And I know he is. And, but I can see it. I can see his face and he'd be smiling ear to ear.
So I love that, by the way. I love that sentiment. And, losses sometimes are never really, I know you talked about this off air. It was kind of unexpected, but you never really expect those, like a lot of losses are sometimes unexpected, right? Because you never expect that those days will come, and they do. And, like I said, your father passed away in 2010. And since then you have two kids. You have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'm just curious now, like, how has him being a father influenced you as you being a father today to two, grown boys?
Yeah. Oof. So Michael, the third, is 7. I'm junior. My dad was senior, of course, and then Lucas is 4. And I mean, it's influenced me in just about every way. My mom too, of course, and my older sister, who's certainly has maternal instincts toward me being 5 years younger. Like a baby brother to her. They all have impacts in shaping how you do it, and then my wife Demetra as well. But being a dad to two boys, I had one role model in that department, and that was my dad. And he was just this larger than life guy. He was my hero, and he was a great role model as a man. He provided and he loved, and he was tough and stern, but if you didn't give anything to be tough and stern about, he was just a big lover. He'd give you big hugs and kisses, and he was my friend too. No blurry line about what was first, dad first, friend right underneath. But I think he's impacted every way that I'm a dad to my sons, the way I love them, the way we listen to music together, watch movies, hang out, play sports. When you look up to someone who's your dad and you want to be like them, and you become friends with them, and then you get to coach with them, and you get to this process. I had 28 years with him. And then people tell you, hey, you're a lot like him. And, it impacts you. It makes you feel good. And I love them so much. And, I see my boys and they remind me of me with our relationship. And I'm actually just remembering this, Naruto, that when I was like 12 or 13, my dad and I would always be together. And he'd ask me these questions. He just had these questions all the time. And I'm just remembering this. He said to me one time, like, hey, what are your biggest fears? Like sharks, or, like, this is probably like a 12-year-old, like, oh, sharks, snakes. And I said to him, and I remember this, and he used to tell me this story back. He was like, I couldn't believe you said this. And I said, my fear is that I'll have kids and I won't have a relationship with them like you and I have. And he said, without missing a beat, he goes, oh, then you have no fear at all. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're you, and you'll be an amazing dad. That'll never happen. You'll have amazing relationships with your kids, just like we do. And I hadn't thought about that much, but so it's impacted me in every way. And I like to think I'm a lot like him in the good ways. And I'm lucky I have two beautiful kids. So.
Definitely something that sticks with you forever, and getting me and Ruda a little emotional.
Yeah.
So definitely a great thing to reflect on. But
sorry,
I'll give you I'll give you a little
I appreciate
minute.
it. No, I'm good. He's here. He's good. I didn't mean to get emotional, but I just kind of thought about that. I hadn't thought about it even when we talked about it outright.
So talking about, continuing to talk about the Middlesex Magic program, I mentioned my boy B-Mac, or, one of my other close friends, Matt Price, who's my guy. He's
great guy.
Yeah, he's a really good dude, and I've known him for a minute. But talking to these guys before the episode, they say that you implore confidence in them, but you also hold them accountable at the end of the day. And especially them being point guards, right? That's a trait that I think most guards need to have. Like, You know,
Yeah.
they need to be confident, but they need to be able to hold themselves and the team accountable. So how have you kind of found this balance as a coach with your players?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it dovetails right off of talking about my dad, because I got to watch him do that. He would he had a way of really barking at his guys, but then loving on them at the same time. And our style has got some similarities, but it's also a little bit different. So I'm going to push them all the time, but you build those relationships so that you can push them. And then, you call their number and you let them know you believe in them, make or miss. And to me, I think it's a lot of off the court stuff. You talk about BMAC, who, is a great friend of mine now and still someone I support and maybe mentor some. But in terms of coaching someone hard but believing in them, I think that is the key. You got to build the trust off the court. You have to have it on the court. BMAC I've known forever. Matty Price will forever be on my top 5 guys I wish I coached longer team, because he was a great player and he's an amazing person. But we had an instant click where I could coach him hard, but he had confidence about himself, and I know that the way I coached him got even more of that into him. So and I've had that with a lot of players. We have it with guys now. I've had it with many of the guys on some of our championship teams, and it's something that matters to me. Like I know it's a strength of mine, but it's not always easy, because every kid's different, every personality is different. But I strive to really connect with all of my guys, and then you find what that connection is. And maybe it's me and BMAC are going to talk a lot, me and Matty Price are going to talk a lot, me and Pat Connaughton. Maybe it's me and Dahi Quinn, and we don't talk as much. We'll text, but like not as much needs to be said. But that young man knows that I would run out in front of moving traffic for him. And I think that matters to him. And I would. And so when he's out there, if he makes a mistake, which is rare, I'm talking about Dahi, I just like DQ, and he kind of looks over. He gives me, it's like a Connaughton look, where they had a similar, where they would just kind of look over and you could see the smoke coming out. And I'm like, okay, he knows. Like, I don't have to yell at him. He's good. And I'll be like, next one, huh? He's like, and then I'll call his number right after, because I know he'll deliver, and then I don't have to tell him I called his number because of that. And Pat, it didn't have to be, but like, they just kind of know. And so maybe that relationship's a little less verbal sometimes, but it's built on hours in the gym, and it's built on a nonverbal kind of trust. And that's obviously an example for the moment for now. But there's many of them. I look at the team over my shoulder, whether it was CJ Cox or Mila and Luka Taves, Austin Hunt, CJ Happy. Like, yeah, I have it with those guys, and it matters to me. It's why I really love the coaching part. Running the program is fun, but like any business, it has its challenges. The coaching, that's hard, but I love it. I mean, I love going to practice with those guys. I love being on the road with them and spending time, because those relationships matter. And I know by comparison to college, or I didn't spend any time as a coach, but I spent time playing in the NBA. I know I have a very like a ripe group of people at an age where you can make a profound impact on them, like 16, 17, 18. They're ready to be impacted and to be a great role model, to push them to get more out of them than they maybe know they have, but also love them. If you do one without the other, I don't think it's as impactful. And that's what I saw with my dad, and that's what I try to do.
So a few years ago, I was waiting for my game at Spooky Nuke, and I saw Middlesex Magic playing. You were coaching, and I was pretty amazed by like some of the sets you were running. And AAU isn't really the game for, or most teams are just running like free for all, fast break, stuff like that. And Pat Connaughton actually was talking about how like he treasured playing in your system because it was so structured. So I was just wondering kind of how you balance that aspect of AAU basketball, but still running sets and a structured type of game.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I do think it's something that set us apart for a long time. It starts with really talented, really capable, really unselfish players. If you don't have that, it probably won't work. I think it's important to have really good coaching and coaches that have acumen and understand the game, and that then can communicate what they know. Because if they know it and they can't communicate it, it's not worth anything. You know, we won 3 HGSL championships in a row with Kolick and Shaughnessy and O'Neal. We've been on Under Armour now. We've won a championship there. 2 days ago, Papa Lambros, who's a great coach in our program and now the new coach at Noble and Greeno, they won the HGSL. And, you know, we've been building the depth in our program for a long time. And sometimes it's hard for a kid to be like, I want to be on your team. I'm like, I want you to be on the HGSL team. They're like, I don't think I'm a B team player. I'm like, it's not a B team. They just won the most prestigious independent circuit in the country, and it's our second team. The pride I have in that, I wasn't there. I was coaching a game. My cousin Larry was there, and I said, I put my phone away, but on my watch, I can look down at some messages in game because they were playing at 12:45. We played at 1. And the first time I saw it was like up 9, 2 minutes to go in the half. And I hadn't really looked back because I was into it. We were playing Texas Impact. It was a big game, and we wound up winning it. But with about 5 minutes left, it was like, bzz, bzz, bzz. And I looked down, and he's like, we did it. They won it. And I was like, they won it, you know? And I think about those guys and how connected they are. We practiced together, same 2 teams. We scrimmage each other. So they got the chance to go against, you know, I think our team's at top, you know, we're ranked in the top 15 or 10 in the circuit. And they routinely will beat us. I mean, we go at each other back and forth. The stuff they run is incredible. Their connectivity is incredible. Their skill level. So to have guys like Lambros, Chris G, Alex G, Gregorio, Matt Brewer, you know, Moody and Kamali Bay, like Evan Carlson, Mike Costello, we have guys in our high school program that coach at an extremely high level. And then we have players that are willing to play that way. And the balance is this. We play defense first and foremost, and then I want to race out and play fast. I think a lot of people will try to, you know, talk about it. Oh, they have a system, and if you can't remember, it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, we have a system, and any program that doesn't, you're probably missing out. And if you're trying to prepare kids to go to college and you don't have a system, when they get there, they're going to be lost, absolutely lost. So yeah, we have a system. It starts with defense. That's our bedrock. Rebound and go. And I want them to play free and use their instincts. We want to get quick shots at the rim or good looks at 3. But if you don't have secondary to flow into some motion or whatever offense you want to run, you're doing them a disservice. Or maybe people don't know or they're incapable. But I feel really lucky to have been around a lot of great coaches and to have picked up a lot over the time. So we have that capability to have our defensive bedrock, race out and play, flow into motion, have different 4-out, 5-out continuity ball screen. And then, yeah, KJ, to your point, we have a lot of sets, and our guys remember when we get clips and we have our playbook and this and that, and we have our bread and butter. But when you get to Under Armour and you're going to play and they can watch all the stuff on Synergy, yeah, man, like we'll practice Wednesday and we'll have 3 new things on Wednesday. That'll be great for us, and it'll pay dividends in Chicago. And we'll still go back to the bread and butter a little later in the game, because even if an AAU coach watches us play 3 games and then tells his players, how many plays are an AAU team going to remember of ours? They're struggling to remember their own plays for most of the time. So I do think there is an advantage in the fact that we practice a lot, we stay connected, and we have that in our bag. And I never say we're not an AAU team or a basketball team. We want to be more like a great high school or a great college team. We want to be connected in that way. When we get late in a game, we were just late in a war against DC Premier. Great team, super talented, physical athletes. And you know, Ryder Frost, a big time player for us, and they were just all up in them. And at a key point in the game, they called a timeout, and I called a set where I put Dahi in the left corner, at our guy Landon Clark, who's like a 6'8", but he can ball handle, kind of left center with the ball. We ran Ryder across over an Iverson screen over 2. And I said, once you get to that corner, those 2 on the elbow, turn like you're going to double form, a double stagger. We had Landon dribble right at that, and then he spun back, dribble right at Dahi, 2 steps, backdoor cut, because all the action in the defense was on one side, and we got Dahi backdoor for the layup because all the attention was on Ryder with a double action, an Iverson and a stagger. And I had just kind of come up with that, thinking about a way to free up a backdoor action. So I was happy I came up with that. And a lot of the college coaches texted me during the day like, oh, great action you got. That kind of sealed it. So that's nice, and I feel good about that. But how amazing is it that our guys in an AAU timeout, which you both know is about 13 and a half seconds long, they're like, oh, is it a 30 or a 60? I'm like, you're not going to give us 30 or 60. It gets you right out. And I put that. I was like, bang, 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 bang. And those guys went out there without ever running it, and they executed it. So having those guys, having them be together, practicing, getting the right people, that matters. Otherwise, I could draw that up for a bunch of different teams and it wouldn't have worked. But it worked for our guys because they focus and they're smart and they can do a lot of things. So anyway, long-winded way, KJ, of saying I thank you for reminding me that you enjoyed watching us play back at Spooky Nook. And we have a lot of great coaches. We have a lot of great players and families that sacrifice and buy in. And I think that's the fabric of why we've been able to become what we are today across multiple circuits with depth, with 33, 34, and 35 players going to college the last couple of years. I don't know if there's anyone else in the country that only has one kind of geographic location anyway that is helping that many young men go on to play in college. And we're super proud of that.
Yeah. You're a great basketball mind just off that one play you just described to us. And
Thanks.
Ruda and I also have talked about this in previous episodes, but when you have a coach that, even though they might be the best coach or a great basketball mind and they're still giving credit to other people, it just allows the program to keep evolving and give your players that much more trust in you. So I definitely respect those words you just spoke.
Thanks, man.
Moving on,
Appreciate
though,
it. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Moving on, though, obviously your program has produced some great talent. I saw 550 basketball players play college basketball from your program. You have some pretty great alumni basketball and Duncan Robinson, Zach Connaughton, Tyler Kolek, Cormac Ryan, all either in the NBA or trying to get to the NBA. So I was reading through the featured alumni page you guys have on your website, and this goes beyond basketball, though. Like, a lot of your players are very successful outside of basketball as well. So I was just wondering if you could talk about why you think your program allows players to be successful within basketball, but also outside of the game.
It's a great question. You know, I mean, I think back to the question earlier about, you asked me about Williams, and we're not a college, but we are a program. It's not just a place you go to play basketball. And we believe in each other. We're there for each other on and off the court. And there's a lot of, this is the part about, it makes me think of Williams, there's just a lot of high achieving, highly talented, highly skilled, and highly hardworking young people. And when they come together and you get in that environment, they kind of spur each other along and they support each other. So I think by having, you know, great family and then us creating another family environment, then they go off to these really great schools and they keep those characteristics that matter the most to them at the forefront of what they're doing. So then they get great educations and they go on to be high achievers in life. And there is cliche about playing sport and what it can teach you. And yeah, and I know companies that love to hire ex-athletes because they know all those traits we talked about, and also that you're going to lose and you're not going to win the sale, or you're not going to get this thing done every now and then. And what do you do then? Do you need 4 days to lay in bed and lament your failure, or can you bounce back? And I think that's probably the biggest one is competitiveness, the ability to get to the next play, the next thing after maybe something didn't go your way. And I think that's what we have. A lot of our young people are that way. And so whatever field they go in, whether it's commercial real estate or medicine or law or whatever it is, we've had a lot of people that have gone on and been really successful. And because of the family feel and what it is, they give back. You know, guys that played for my dad, they've reached out to me, you know, when we won the Under Armour last year, a lot of messages from guys. I played for your dad in 1997. I don't know if you remember me. I played for your dad in 1994. I don't remember me, but it's amazing to see what's going on. And, you know, that stuff makes me really happy and really proud. And we have an interconnected alumni base. Connaughton and Kolek came to our championships in Chicago 2 years ago, sat on the bench. Duncan and Pat have both come back to my camp every summer when they can, when they're around. That's stuff that I don't think is going on. I think there's a lot of people that played AAU basketball. And like, oh, AAU was fun, man. Yeah, that was a blast. And remember when we went to Orlando? Remember when we went to St. Louis, whatever. And, you know, we all went out to that dinner. Like, for our guys, they're going to come away from it knowing that this will always be here for them. I will be here for them, Chris, Bill, and that they'll be there for each other. And if they know that, then we've done our job. And that's what matters to us. Because ultimately, you know, can't say you're not going to play in the NBA. We've had too many guys defy those odds and get there. But ultimately, you're going to do something else other than play basketball. Some people say the ball will stop bouncing. You guys asked me earlier. I still bounce the ball, so we'll see. But it's not my job to play anymore. My job is to run a program and to try to. I look at it as to try to, give love for the game to these kids and help them learn stuff through it and use it as a vehicle to things like education and friendships and relationships and characteristics. So that's what I love about it. That's what I love to do. And I think that's why these guys remain successful beyond. And hopefully they'll continue to do that. And it'll be something that'll continue to be a hallmark of our program as we get to 600 and 700 and force it all the way up to 1,000 alums that have played college basketball. And we're working hard every day at that. And the depth of our program's never been better. So we're excited for it to keep flowing and keep having so many great kids come into the program.
So you talk about like the depth of your program, and I'm just interested, like, what do you think, what year gave you the most advancement, do you think, in terms of national, I don't want to say coverage, but just people like knowing your program, right? Like was there a specific year? You know what I'm trying to ask, Coach? Or
yeah. It's a debatable question. I mean, there's a few, so I'll answer it. 2010, Patrick Connaughton had a great summer in 2009. My dad and I were coaching the team together. Then my dad passed. And then in 10, it was like, can he be a high major basketball player? I hadn't coached one. I'd coached in the NBA, but I didn't even have great relationships with high major coaches. I was 28. And Pat's run that summer was a big one because we were having a ton of success down at the AAU Nationals and the showcase. And he was putting on a master class game after game. It was insane. And then so all of a sudden, whether we're at the main gym, sometimes we're in auxiliary gyms, and here's Bruce Pearl and UCLA's there and Carolina, and you're like, whoa, like everyone's there. So that was a moment. 2010 was a moment. And then we had really good teams, throughout. Duncan Robinson and Harry Rafferty and Braley and his crew were a couple years later. But Duncan wasn't even a Division I player to start. He went to that wonderful school in the Purple Valley there, Williams College, that we've talked about so much. But that was a confluence of events. He was super talented, but he was 6'6.5", 175. He had a back injury going on that summer. He probably should have been a low Division I player. But hey, man, fate intercedes. And if he doesn't go to Williams and Maker doesn't go, like, how does the pathway work? Because he wouldn't have went straight to Michigan. He might have went to the Patriot League or the Ivy League if they got him. So that works out. And Dom Campbell and Will Batchelder and JP Estrella, Cormac Ryan, Mila, CJ Cox, Luka Taves. Now it's like it kind of keeps going, and we're getting more high major players. So I think the next point in time is probably COVID, to be honest with you, which obviously was a bad time. But COVID is around the time that we got our facility, our 3-court facility that we have, and I think that helped expand our program holistically. Camps, clinics, training, more teams, easy access. No one had gyms at that time, so that was an advantage. And then after that last year playing on an independent circuit, that's when we went on to Under Armour. And that was a big deal. And I think a lot of people thought we could have success there. A lot of people said to me, you guys will do well, but it's going to take you some time. And I was like, I appreciate it. And then they would leave, and I was like, we're going to win this sucker right away. Like, that's our, we're not going anywhere to be like, hey, I hope we do well. Like, let's go try to win a few. And if we lose, that's fine. Like, that's not us. And, we had played 3 of the Elite 8 Under Armour teams the last year we were independent, and we were 2-1. And I watched it a little bit. I was like, I think we can do some damage, and that first year we went 18-3 with our 17U group. We won the spring championship. We didn't win the championship. We lost in the summer. We got upended. And that was JP and Nugent and, Aiden Kamen, Mikey Locknane, Logan Carey, Gavin Carter, Mark Garrard, a bunch of great players. Then last year we go 13-4 and we win it. And we beat a Team Thrill team that was probably as dominant last year as we were the first year. They were 15-1. The one was an important one. We beat them in the semis, then we beat Canada Elite. Now this year, we're getting ready to go to Chicago in a few days, and we're one of the 1 seeds with Thrill, and we have a chance to do it again. But I think being on that national stage, that is another moment, COVID kind of leading into this trajectory upward that we've had. But Connaughton's always going to be that pillar. I mean, he's, what he did for our program was really unmatched. But then along the way, so many people, so many teams. But I think now we're looking at, we've been having high major guys every year as opposed to one every 4 or 5 years. And it may not happen every year. I mean, we're not, you're not in like Texas where Massachusetts is a small place. Now we have prep schools and people come, so our pool gets wider. But I think that's been part of that rise, to answer the question. And it's really cool for me to be speaking with, Hubert Davis and Mike Shrewsbury and Mike Rhodes and Mike Young and whomever, all of the high major coaches. And then I'm like, I see a beep and I'm like, oh man, it's Joe Jones at BU. Oh wait, it's Jay Lawson at Bentley. Oh wait, it's Jeff Brown at Middlebury. I want to talk to. That's where my groundwork was laid, man. I love. I don't check on anything more than I check on d3hoops.com. I want to see what's going on, and that's still my home as a player. So to have kids at all levels and to have them working together in the same gym and having connectivity, I love that. And I love that we can get 30 plus guys a year going on to college. And that's the thing, when scholarships are offered or recruiting spots are offered, and then when it's sealed, those are those posts that I'm putting up. And I'm like, hey, that fuels me. That's definitely where my, when you ask somebody, hey, what's your purpose? What's your why? Like, that's it for me, because when they get there, now you got to go do it, but we've helped them use all their talent and hard work to get to a great spot. And hopefully they're going to take it and run with it and have a great life. And we'll be as much a part of that as they want. And that's it. That's when my dad started, man. I saw it. I saw him with it. I was young and I watched it. I was like, hey, look what he's doing. And now we got it going on steroids, compared to what he thought about. And that's what makes me happy, man. That and my family every day makes me happy.
I mean, I don't think anyone should be surprised about the success of you guys in the UAA. Like, I mean, I could think, coming up in high school, playing in the AAU circuit, that team with Kolek, my guy Will Dorian, like that team was they had some dudes on that team. You guys had some dudes, or even the talking about that COVID team. If I'm not mistaken, like Curtis
Anderson,
yeah, and then
Curtis, Matty Price, Batch, Mulvey,
Morset,
Brady Cummins, yep. Josh Morset, of course. Yeah,
and you
that
guys,
Kolek Dorian team you mentioned, that team went 21-1 that summer.
You guys ran through the HGSL.
They were really good. They were really good.
Yeah, I mean, well, like that's what I'm saying. Like no one should have been like, oh, it's gonna take some time. Like nah. Like when you guys played like the year before that, you guys went to the UAA. That team with Campbell, Morset, Will Batch, like you guys were running through like EYBL teams.
We did. We had that's another great moment you talk about. We went out to Dallas for the circuit event, and I said to him, "Hey, man, there's no live period. Like, we want the best teams you can get." And we beat 2 EYBL teams from Texas in the same day, Pro Sports and Houston Hoops, and Pro Skills, and Houston Hoops, and that was a big moment. It was a big moment for Dom Campbell. Kind of the high major floodgates opened for him. But that team, you're right. That team would have done some damage with Baldwin, Morset, Locknane, Kamen, Brady Cummins, B-Mac, Keegan Sullivan, Cash McClure joined our team, who's a stud at Bentley. We had a laundry, Baldwin. We had a Xavier McKenzie. That was one of those teams where, as a coach, you put your first 5 out. I think we started Dom, Brady, Locknane, Morset, and Batch. And you'd look to your bench and you'd be like, I can't wait to get them in. Like it's one of those teams, as opposed to like, are Billy and Johnny going to be able to, and I have a team like that right now, where you're looking at the bench and you're seeing Sam Hughes, you're seeing Jay Jones, who's, told me, hey, if it works better for me to come off the bench, let me know. Like, I'm good. I mean, who has that? Like, what kind of selflessness is that? You got Luke Soden, you got Tyler Bike, you got Dylan Villette. I mean, we have 11 guys on the team. Barrett Lohr is hurt right now. 10 of them 3 of them are committed D1. 7 of them have 6+ Division I offers. And I think Luke Soden can become a Division I player, whether he chooses something different or not. So, I mean, how many programs in the country have 10 Division I players and that are happy and love to be together? Like sometimes you see a team with the talent, but it doesn't work out because, Mike's upset because KJ and Ruda play too much, right? I'm just as good as him. Screw that. I'm going to go with this team. No. Sam Hughes could be a leading scorer on Under Armour, period. Sam, he's loaded with talent. And sometimes he is our leading scorer, but he wants to win. And college coaches see that, and I think it matters. And so anyway, that depth is pretty cool.
Yeah. And this is, perfect way to wrap it up. Like both Cage and I have talked about, like Middlesex Magic probably by this point is one of the best. I'm not even going to say AAU, one of the best programs in the country. We're just if you think about overall depth, continued success over the last 20, 30 years. So how do you see yourself as a coach, but also the program growing in the future?
That's a great question. I try to get to practices and see cultures and practice energies and obviously sets and X's and O's. You're always learning. I get targeted on Instagram with those all the time anyway. I don't even know if I have to look anymore. It's just like basketball and golf swing stuff and my family. But going to practice for me, being around other programs and cultures and seeing, oh, wow, I really like how they did that. You're always trying to get better individually as a leader, as a coach. For our program, there could be some other geographic areas we may try to continue to push into, specifically at the youth ages. But I think to a certain extent, it kind of funnels up to kind of the main hub at high school. But I think we could have high school programs in other sort of geographic areas. Our camps and our clinics are growing. Our training business is growing. And I think that's a great opportunity to get to know someone before they're in your program. I'm going to come to a camp. I'll come to a training. You really get that more individual or small group setting. And I'm really excited about our girls program, which is smaller. And we have some really good people in place there now. And I want to try to grow it. It's been one of those things where I don't know that I can be the leader of that. I can be the leader of the whole entity, but people are like, oh, if you just grow it, you can get more teams. I'm like, I want to grow it and get more teams and help young women. But we want to be good too. No one thought we could be what we are on the boys' side 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 7 years ago, 3 years ago. There's a lot of naysayers, and here we are. So that's something. I'm 43. Hopefully you guys do this podcast for a long time. Maybe when I'm 45 or 48 or 53, we can check in, be like, hey, coach, how about the Lady Magic? Hopefully we're thriving with them, because it is important to me to try to provide the same opportunities for young girls and young women that we are for young men. And sometimes the reputation of being a boys program is so boy oriented. Like that's why we branded it the Lady Magic. We wanted to develop its own path. And not have the strength of the boys program be in any way a detriment, but hopefully be something that helps it. So we're working on that. And, we have some good goals going forward. We want to keep a lot of the good stuff the same, but we're always looking to grow and be better and try to learn.
I mean, throughout this whole podcast, you've just given us gem of an answer for every single question, but I think that might have been my favorite one, just giving equal love to females as you are males. And I definitely am on the same page with that. So Ruda as well. So we definitely respect that and appreciate that. But we're going to end this episode with a little rapid fire and starting 5 edition. So let us know when you're ready for rapid fire.
Go. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. So I guess I ask a lot of college coaches this, or even players, like if they have like, I don't even know, like a rival, let's say, or a game that they're like, circle on the calendar, or there was a game like, oh, I was happy to get that one. Did you have that? Did you ever have a moment like that? If you can say that on air, if you want.
As a player or as a coach?
Hey, if you want to say both. If you want to say both, honestly.
Oh, Amherst. I mean, yeah, as a player, it was Amherst. That rivalry is so big. And I know you had Coach Hickson on recently, the Hall of Famer. So much respect to him and what he accomplished. But the first New England Division III NCAA champion was Williams College East in 2003. And we beat Amherst 3 out of 4 times that year. We always played a home and home. We played like a non-league, and then we'd get the league. So we split that. We had to go on the road. to beat them in the championship game at their gym, which we did, and then we beat them in the Elite Eight. So that was a game you circled. The next year, we had to play him 4 times again, same exact thing. We won 3, including a Final Four game. So he got 2 national championships. I'm pretty sure he would have got one earlier if it wasn't for us, because we were both so good. And I have nothing but respect for those guys. I didn't love them then, but that means they were really good. And I've become friends with a lot of those guys, Adam Harper and Keith Zalaski, and Andrew Olson came after me, but I've gotten to know him. So that was the one you circled for sure. Like, and I circled it twice because there was 2 of them. And we always knew there was probably going to be a third. And I mean, can you imagine playing a team 4 times a year or 8 times in 2 years? And they're like your bitter rival because Amherst College was started by a bunch of professors that left Williams. So the old heads at Williams call Amherst the defectors because they started, and that's a true story. You can look that one up. So that's why us Williams guys will always have that. But hey, the coolest part about Amherst is like it makes Williams better, and Williams makes Amherst better. When you have a great rival like that, it's pretty neat. So that's the one I circled there, no doubt. High school, probably Watertown, because Belmont and Watertown were rivals, and I played against a great guard named Bobby Murgo, who's a friend of mine now. So those are always great wars with him. And as a coach, I mean, thinking about Under Armour, right? Like Team Thrill, we used to play them before when we were independent. We had some good wins. Since playing them now, I think we're somewhere in the 500 range, but I know that the statistics came out after our first 2 years that we were 31-7 in 17U games in 2 years. And they were like 32-5. And they had won 1 championship. We had won 1. They had won 1 spring championship. We had won 1. So there's a lot of balance. And like this year we're 12-2. And I think they're like 13 or we're 12-3. They're 13-2. So the records will we've kind of been atop, and it's really hard. There's so many good teams. So you want to win them all, but I'm friends with Mookie. I got respect for what Team Thrill does, and we got different styles of play, and it's fun. When we lock horns, it's always fun. I saw him last year in Atlanta, and we were going there. I said, "How you doing? We're coming in." I said, "Good." I said, "We're coming, Mookie." He goes, "Hey, if there's one thing you don't have to tell me, I know you guys are always coming." And I think that is a sign of respect because he runs a great program out of the Baltimore area, and we're not going to play him this year unless it's the championship. So maybe this will be me foreseeing something on Sunday of this upcoming week. But we got a lot to take care of before then, and so do they. But great program, and we probably circle that one. We like to play that.
Okay, I like that. Like you always love competition. Yeah.
No doubt.
Next rapid fire question. This is for. I'm thinking right now, like sometimes we have some young coaches watching ours, or even just coaches like that, and who are coaching right now. Watching the podcast, and I think. You can always take stuff from other coaches and be innovative. So what's a culture building activity that you do outside of basketball to like promote that?
We go to Top Golf, man. We'll go to Top Golf, get some food, and watch some really athletic young people do a really terrible job being athletes with a golf club in their hand. And it's also great because I love to golf, and I'm pretty good. Specifically by comparison to my 17-year-olds, I'm way better. So considering they're better at basketball now, it's nice to be like watch them try. And some of them hit it well, but then you see some like Division I athletes and they're missing the ball, and you're like, oh my goodness. So we have fun. We like to do that. We go to movies here and there. We have a like start of the season. We kind of did a little camp day where we had a practice, went out to lunch, came back the next day, did that. We're going to do some social media that'll be releasing that in the month to come, kind of like a 3-episode piece that our film guy's working on. So we did that where we'll get in a film room and we'll talk about our culture. Like culture is what happens, but sometimes people just let culture just unravel and become what it is. And I like the natural course of that, but we also want to guide it and tell responsible people, these are our values and this will guide our culture. Then they get to be themselves, but within the parameters of what you want your organization to look like. So I think that's important. You can't just hope like, oh, here we are. Like hopefully the culture is good. I don't believe in that. You have to guide it, but then let it be organic. So I think off the court stuff's great. Movies, Top Golf. When we're in the car, there's no earphones. There's an old Crotty Sr. No headphones, no AirPods. We're talking or we're listening to music together. We'll do 2 truths and a lie. That's a fun one, and you try to get, and then, you get somebody you don't know and they give you 3 things and you're like, which one of those is actually true? Yeah. And then you get into the story. I feel like, wait a minute, this actually, tell me about this. So, just, it's not like we're going and doing a ropes course and, but I think talking is the most important thing and being together and having fun. But those are a few things we do.
Okay. And then last rapid fire question. This can be a multiple person. You can name multiple people for this one, but who has been some of the funniest kids that you've ever coached?
Wow. That's a great question. Oh my gosh. Funny guys I've coached. BMAC's really funny. We know this. He does his little, now with the more than
MTV
different
humor.
Sort of,
The MTV.
yes, it's good. He just did the one the other day, the interrupting guy. That was good. I'm looking at this picture. I have this great montage of guys. CJ Happy is a funny guy. He's just a fun guy. Like he's, Happy is a very appropriate last name for him. He's just like really great to be around. Mike Lochnane's funny. He's sneaky funny. He's smart and witty. Jay Jones is a funny guy. He carries a lot of stuff with our group. Man, other funny guys. We've had a bunch over the years. That's a tough one though. That one kind of caught me off guard. I'll say Jay's been at the heart of our culture for a few years now. Sophomore now, 2 years on junior year, and he's always kind of in the mix. Whether it was him and Lochnane or him and JP, him and Happy. Now you got him with Ryder and DQ and Landon Clark. Landon Clark's a funny guy. That's a good one. He's smart. He's funny. He'll give you real humor. He'll give you stone cold humor where you say something to him and he's just kind of like, no. And you're like, oh. And then, Landon's, I wish we had him around for a couple more years. He's a funny dude too. So we got a bunch of them. That's a good question.
All right, we're going to move to starting five. And
okay,
starting five edition, I'll describe it a little bit. If you're a coach assembling a lineup 1 through 5, who's your lineup going to be? And this edition is going to be the best passers you've seen in your career. And you've been around some pretty awesome passers, so I'm very interested. And I want you to know that you can include yourself in this one.
Oh, boy. All right, so it's guys I've coached or watched, not like NBA guys?
Or you've been around the NBA, so it can be them too. Just anyone you've been around and seen, basically.
All right, you know what? I'm going to give you two. I'm going to go NBA. I'm going to go Stockton, Magic, Rondo, J-Kidd.
Give me some positions. You got to go 1 through 5, though.
Oh, that makes it way harder. I just said all point guards. All right, Stockton. Sorry, he's my hero. 1 is Stockton. You know what, though? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to bump Magic to the 2 just because, come on, he's Magic. He can play the 5 if you want. The 3 is Bird for sure. The 4 is Duncan. And the 5 is, oh, boy. I guess I'll go Wilt Chamberlain. Because he led the league in assists 1 year. So that's my NBA one. Now, my group, that is hard. I'm going to go 3 guards. So 1, 2, 3. Tyler Kolek, for sure. Harry Rafferty was a great passer for us and a great point guard. Okay, so Harry's in there with Kolek. We're going to go one more guard. Luka Taves. Sorry. I'm going 3 points. I'm going to go Kolek at Rafferty and Taves. Taves is elite. My 4-man, I'm going to go small ball. Connaughton goes to the 4. Great passer, elite passer. And then I'm going to go JP Estrella at the 5 because he could really sling it out of the post and he's super unselfish. So there's my Magic best 5 passers. And I left some people out. They're going to be mad at me. Gosh.
Okay, well, Coach, I think that was a really good top 5. Both NBA and high school guys. Like you said, I definitely think some guys are going to be upset. You coach so many different players. I mean, it's hard to name 5 guys. But regardless, this has been a great episode. Probably one of the most memorable episodes that I think we've had, just in terms of coaching, your personal life, playing career, and we definitely appreciate you getting on and doing this today. And we're Middlesex Magic supporters at the end of the day, and we hope for nothing but success.
Thanks, man. We need to get a few more of those things. We're on our way. So
good luck this
appreciate
weekend.
It.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you for having me on.
For sure.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Not Even D2. If you haven't already, make sure to go follow all the socials at Not Even D2. You can catch every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm your host, KJ Allison, and I'll see you next episode.